It's time to step on over to the Pulse Radio Show, brought to you with the kind compliments of Med-Safe Medical Supplies Ltd.
For all your medical supply needs, visit Med-Safe Medical Supplies Ltd. We offer a wide range of products including wheelchairs, walkers, canes, crutches, blood pressure machines, stethoscopes, and so much more. Conveniently located on Gemmett's Lane, just a 2-minute walk from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And for your convenience, we deliver free to the QEH. Open Monday to Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Call us at 624-7542. Med-Safe Medical Supplies Ltd. Your trusted source for medical essentials. Good morning to you. It's good to be with you on Q100.7 FM for another edition of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Pulse Radio Show, a production in collaboration with the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. I'm Shane Seeley, Communications Specialist at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and we've been very busy there doing so many things and sharing them with you on our socials. You've seen many highlights in the news feeds as well. Across various media and on our website. You can always go there, QEH connect with us at www.qehconnect.com. But you know, we always give you the opportunity to connect here as well, using the phone lines 434-1007 or 434-1070. We always want to hear from you. Today we're going to continue on from last week's conversation. We were talking about an important piece of equipment that we just received, called the Linear Accelerator. So we're going to continue to speak about that important piece, that important tool, and how it will work to, improve patient care. But we want to really talk about the journey, because the journey was no easy feat at all. And to speak a bit more about the journey, we have back with us a good man in Corey Drakes, our physicist, our medical physicist. He spent some time with us last week taking you through those steps to where we are right now and where we're going. And we're going to go back again a bit on that so that you understand absolutely clearly where we are at right now and where we need to go to make sure that we treat that very first patient. There's still a ways to go. And to talk a bit more about the baton passing that we've been doing at the QEH in terms of getting to this stage of the journey, we also have Mrs. Paula Agbowu, our Director of Engineering. Now, you may have seen these two faces really corralling that piece of equipment, the Linear Accelerator, to its current location in our LINAC bunker at the QEH. So it's safely there, it's installed, and now there's some more work to be done to get it ready. So good to have both of you on the show as we continue to talk about the journey of the Linear Accelerator.
Morning to
So,
our listeners.
Yeah, ladies first. Paula, you were there at Green Hill, our storage site, where everything was happening last Tuesday morning, almost a week ago, where we actually saw it come out of storage and going onto the truck. But maybe you can take us back a bit further, because there was a bit of a journey to even get it into storage, to get it procured, to get everything going to where we are right now.
Yes, Shane. Morning again. Morning to all of our listeners. It's been quite a bit of a journey for us to get to this point. And as you said, we would have along with the procurement of the equipment, we would have had to have done some work on the bunker in order to prepare it for the machine. And we had some site readiness to do. Apart from the actual machine that we procured, we also had to actually build an additional portion onto the existing bunker. So while the engineers would have indicated to us that the Linear Accelerator, the Halcyon, could have fit in the bunker, that while we have indicated that it could have fit in the bunker, there was some additional space that was needed that we would have to build in order to make the full area adequate for the housing of the unit, as well as the ancillary, as well as all of the ancillary equipment, and also for us to make sure that the area was safe for our staff. And so we had to build another building, so to speak, which is attached to the existing bunker. If you see it now, it looks as if it was there from inception, but it wasn't. And we also had to build the maze wall, which really we had a little bit of a challenge because there was nobody here that could offer the density of concrete that we needed in order for us to make sure that the radiation requirements, and I guess Corey can speak some more on that, but we needed to make sure that that maze wall was adequately built to withstand the type of the levels of radiation that we expected.
So nobody on island that could offer that type of material that we wanted to make sure that the bunker was perfectly ready to protect everyone involved once this equipment is working.
At the time, given the measurements and so on that we had, nobody had the requisite aggregate for us to mix to get the density levels that we required. We obviously then had to put our heads together. We had an amazing team that worked together, and I think that the team then put their heads together to try to work out a solution around that and how we would go forward in terms of making sure that we had adequacy of protection, because obviously safety was one of our key requirements in this whole exercise.
And when you speak about team only QEH, talk about that team.
So the team
involved
consisted of not only the project manager, we engaged a project manager, Joseph LaFleur from AEC. We also engaged some other members from our cross different disciplines, so that we had our biomed persons, we had our radiographer, senior radiographer, and what we call as the head of department. We had physicists, and we had a number of other people on board in order to make up this team. We also had meetings on a weekly basis with the steering committee, and the steering committee did have on it the CEO and the COO and those high-level persons, so that they could quickly approve any decisions that needed to happen very quickly, so that we could make sure that we kept on target.
Okay, we have a caller to the program. Welcome, caller. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I holding on to Mrs. Seeley. My sister is on B4. They went to look for her on Thursday and Friday. Not a chair in there for her to sit down.
B5.
She said the doctors and the nurses is very nice to her, but not a chair. And I walk in with a cane. I have to stand up and talk with she. They stand up from 4 to 8 o'clock, Mr. Shane. That's not nice.
Okay, well, something for us to work on.
No chairs.
Paula is our director of engineering, and she's also responsible for sometimes, in some cases, furniture.
Some cases.
Some cases.
Not in all cases.
Right, so B5 you said?
B5, not a chair.
So you know that I'm glad you called, because, I am not going to see this for sure, because I'm not normally on B5.
My sister is in there, and I went and look for her on Thursday and on Saturday. I had a talk with her, then go outside and come back in, and I walk in with a key, and you understand?
Yeah.
I have a bad foot too.
We apologize for that experience. That is
But
not
she
good
said
enough.
the doctors and nurse in there is very, very nice to her.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that, and we got to
Yes,
shout
please.
out those doctors and nurses on B5.
Yes, please.
Mrs. Agbowu here has a response for you.
Yes, please.
Yes, morning.
Morning.
I'm very sorry to hear about that. What I would like to indicate, though, is that our Director of Nursing, Mr. Pinder, has or is in the process of procuring a number of chairs for various locations, and we will try and make sure that B5 is one of those
Yes, please.
locations that is on the high priority in getting theirs allocated.
And she got
as
along
soon
with,
as-
she had a knee
Okay.
replacement, and she got me in there for 6 weeks. And not going to the
Right.
hospital and starting out all the time. Isn't got like I have to carry a chair from home.
I hope it would not come to that, and that the ones that Mr. Pinder is procuring, that those will arrive very, very soon, and that we'll be able to allocate some for B5.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. These things are work in progress, but we really want to do better by you and all of the other visitors who would come to see their relatives at our hospitals. So again, thank you for calling the Pulse Radio Show and letting us know that we need to put some chairs on B5 as soon as possible, so persons like you and others, yes, you have your disability there, but other people need to sit down and speak to their relatives. Just spending that time alone helps with the recovery process. Having someone familiar there by their bedside. You spoke about our doctors and nurses doing what they need to do to make your relative feel comfortable, but yes, that visit from you could go a long way in just helping that person to feel a whole lot better and get better as we ready them to get back into what is a normal state of life, or as normal as possible after recovering from whatever condition there was. But yes, thanks again. Paula, you were speaking about that journey and the teams involved,
Yeah.
the people involved, and I think we should also really thank them as well, because
Of
they
course.
helped us in big part to get to where we are today.
Yep. I think that this project was really a good showing of teamwork. Without the type of teamwork that we had, I don't think that we would be at this point. We had a technical team, and then we had a steering committee. And as the name says, the technical team were the ones that, when we came up with any little challenge, they put their heads together and tried to make sure that we could find a solution at the end of the day for us to get to this point. So after all those things, we were at the point where we were completed with the civil works and the all the other works, not just civil, but also there was some electrical works, some installation of our computer systems and so on, which is absolutely needed for the system to function. And then we were at the point where we were ready to do the transfer of the machine from its storage facility to the bunker at the hospital.
Right. So we did that on Tuesday again. You were there. Mr. Drakes here was also there as well. And once we get to that point of the unveiling, because that has to happen and that is weeks away, once we get to that point of unveiling, we'll be showing you something that we've created to really explain how intricate this journey was, so you can actually see and walk through it with us. Corey, this has been a long time in coming for you. I could really see the joy, especially as far as Ian Withers, he's our senior radiation therapist at our hospital. I could see how happy both of you were to really get to this point, see it on the truck, and really watch it head down the road. A 11,000 pound piece of equipment coming down the road there by Combermere, and you know how that hill is. So it was anxious, but anxious moments, but joy really to see it delivered. And now it's in its home. It's home there for you now to do your calibrations and other things. Walk us through to the storage facility, like Paula just did on your end.
Sure.
Because your end, even though you both collaborated on this project, your end is slightly different in terms of the collaborations you would have with those medical experts,
Sure.
and also those people who are in charge of the procurement of such a piece of equipment. You would be involved in that as well. Talk a bit about that side of things. I don't think we really touched on that last week.
Yeah, sure. So good morning to all of the listeners. Good morning to everyone in the studio. As the primary coordinator for this LINAC project from its inception, the project entailed a lot of collaborative efforts, with key partners like the supplier Varian Global Medica, who is the regional distributor for this type of equipment in the Caribbean. We also had a lot of conversations with Sun Nuclear, responsible for the quality assurance equipment that we procured to do our calibration testing. Hope Concierge Services for the staff support, who will be coming in to join the team for the next 6 months to ensure that we can knock down the existing backlog. But also the transfer of knowledge is going to be important, because we are transitioning basically from cobalt technology, which is in the grand scheme of things kind of archaic technology, to a more modern, advanced linear accelerator technology. So there was some learning curve there. I just usually make the analogy of transitioning from riding a tricycle to driving a Lamborghini. That's how steep the learning curve is.
Yeah.
So we did have a lot of educational training in there for the staff, just to ensure that everyone is at the level that they're supposed to be at. And that training is actually continuing, Shane. So after the installation of the system, our staff, like the radiation therapists, etc., will be training on the system itself, training with support equipment like the immobilization and positioning equipment, which is responsible for reproducibility, which would enhance the precision and the accuracy of this treatment that we're looking to deliver with this Linear Accelerator. So at that Green Hill facility, we had the riggers who were responsible for guiding the local team who was employed to basically move the system from the Green Hill facility down to the QEH. It was important that they were there, because a system like a linear accelerator, you just can't lift that system from any point on the system, So those guys were there guiding the local team to ensure that it was done properly, to ensure that we didn't damage the system. And of course, I was overseeing that as well, because I know a little bit about what we should do and what we shouldn't do, because we did have a rigging methodology as well that we had numerous discussions about. So for me, it was an anxious moment, but very exciting, as you said, because this linear accelerator was long in coming and it's finally here on island. Yeah,
you said rigging. If you can explain that concept, that term, for the average listener.
So what rigging is basically movement of the system from one location to another. In this case, we had it stored at our Green Hill storage facility, where that environment was environmentally controlled, and therefore we had to move it down to the hospital in our LINAC bunker, where it would be utilized for radiation therapy of treatment. So rigging is just a fancy word for movement of the equipment from one location to another location.
Okay, so we came from the Green Hill bunker. It was stored there, and while it was stored there, we were doing that preparatory work. We brought it from Green Hill, and we had that day where many people would have seen on social media. It was blessed by Canon Noelbert, who is really the Queen Elizabeth Hospital's religious mentor, and he helps to really bless everything that happens at our hospital. From there on, after he placed his hand and gave his blessings, there was a task in directing that. Paula, you and Corey would have led that initiative. So many hands on deck just to get the linear accelerator. I would describe it as 13, 14 feet, probably a little more.
About
from the drop-off location to the final rest, it was about 30 feet.
30 feet.
That we had to move 11,000 pounds. And just to give you some context, we had just a half-inch clearance above the system, right, compared to where the door lintel height is. And we also had a half-inch clearance on either side of the system. So it made the rigging task somewhat difficult, but we were prepared for it, because we always knew that this is a retrofit, and to get this system in, we used a lot of architectural simulations and what's not. So we knew that it was going to be tight, and we knew that we had to have a good, strong technical team and strong collaboration on the ground to make it happen. It took us 11 hours to move 25
I was just going to say that.
So
it was an all-day exercise, basically, and although many people may have seen the transport from Green Hill down to the hospital, and that was only a couple of minutes. From there on, it took us then the rest of the day, and we literally left at about just after 10 at night because we were literally moving the system inch by inch. It was quite an arduous task, and like Corey said, we knew based on the simulations, based on all of the drawings, based on all the architectural drawings, and they would have shown us the path that we needed to take. And from the time we got on site, we then had to uncrate, unbox. Then we had to make sure that we put on the lifting lugs. Then we had to actually lift it. And this machine, many people would have said, well, we just could use 2 5-ton jacks. It's just about 11 tons or so. We can use 2 5-ton jacks and some additional manpower and get it in. However, the riggers and the engineers at Varian would have advised that was not to be done, and therefore that we were to employ any other technique but the use of the jacks, which may seem as the easiest thing that we could have done. What they did advise us is that the center of gravity of the machine is not in the center of the machine of itself, and it is really designed and built how it's designed and built, where the majority of the weight is, it's really on one side of the machine and to the back of the machine. And therefore, any tipping of that machine, what they had indicated to us, that there's nobody that is going to hold that weight. And so if there was any tipping or leaning or movement in the wrong direction, it was going to go. And because we had to bring it up the ramp, we knew that we needed to be extremely careful that it didn't tip at all, because as long as it started to go, everybody would just have to be hands off and let it go. And
Whoa.
so, yes. And so we had to make sure that we did that inch by inch to just carefully get it up the ramp. And once we got it up the ramp and sat, that was one sigh of relief that we were able to breathe. Then we had to get it through the first doorway, and then we had to make sure that we put on the skids. We had to jack it up in various ends. We had to make sure that we did that. The team also would have advised us that we needed to have at least 5 to 6 persons to assist, and it was not just equipment that was needed to move the machine that we were going to.
A lot more than that.
Well, we needed some heavy lifting and some persons to push and so on. So their team was about 4 people strong. We had about 6 of the persons from Heinz Transport to help, and then we still had the various lifting jacks and the skids that we utilized to get it in position. We knew that it was going to be very, very tight tolerances to get it through the doorway and then to make the turns. And at one stage we had to turn it to the left and to go up, then to reverse it, and so on. We even had to put down some card and then some metal plates in order for the machine to slide on. And then we had to do some pushing, some physical pushing. We did not understand when they said that they needed 5 to 6 people, but when we got to that stage, we realized there were some points when they said push, and everybody said, well, we're pushing, and there was no movement. So you can understand how difficult it was. And that pushing and that maneuvering and shifting was literally inch by inch.
I want to applaud and salute one man who got some great exercise on that day, Philip King. You're number 2 in engineering. A pleasant good morning to you, Philip King. I think he's recovered now. He has so much other work on his plate. Not only the Linear Accelerator, but your engineers, Paula, are very busy.
Very busy.
Right across the plant.
Remember, it's a 60-plus-year-old plant. And
I
therefore,
think we need
there's
to emphasize that because just quickly on another note, I just want to gloss over this, but it's very important. You and your team, rightly so, manage a 60-year-old building.
correct.
60-year-old buildings do need maintenance, and
Do
in
need
some
maintenance.
cases, major maintenance, and in some cases, daily maintenance.
Yes.
Not only will you be helping to maintain the Linear Accelerator, but how many pieces of equipment across the plant,
So-
along with the building?
We have in our maintenance management software system, we have approximately 17,000 pieces of equipment. And of those 17,000, I can say that we have 800 plus air conditioning units and about 7 to 8,000 pieces of biomedical equipment. And so as one walks through the building, you may not necessarily note or notice all of the various bits and pieces, but that and all of that is separate and distinct to the building, the physical building and the grounds of itself. So that's what the team is looking after.
And the thing is, you're right. When you walk through the hospital as a visitor, as a patient coming in, or even as a staff member, you're not going to see all of those
Yeah.
moving parts. And I remember.
Some patients, I mean, just to give context, if you go to some patients' bedsides, patients' bedsides have maybe 10 pieces of equipment alone, particularly in our ICUs. They may have 4 or 5 infusion pumps alone, apart from other monitors and other devices and so on. So, it's quite a bit of equipment that we do carry throughout the facility.
Right, and I know your team has been at 6-year-old building. We saw on social media someone posting something about leaks at the facility. That will happen.
Yes.
That is a natural course for a 6-year-old building. We make sure that we put up those caution signs
Yes.
once we identify them to let people know, staff and the public, that this is a place that we're addressing, and then your team
Yep.
does the analysis and
So-
addresses the situation.
So once they see caution tape or around the area and so on, and the area is marked out and that kind of thing, it means that we have identified that there is a leak. And sometimes, people think that we haven't addressed it as quickly as possible, but we are in the rainy season. And we are getting rains every day. And in a lot of cases, in order to address those areas, we need to have the area dried out. We need to make sure that we've clearly identified the source, because as we know, the leak may be on the south side, but it's actually coming from the northern side. So, we have to make sure that we identify the area clearly and that we have it dried out and prepared properly so that we can have those leaks sorted out and as quickly as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's not always a pretty sight. If you have a construction area, you know how a construction area looks. We've seen a lot of construction going on right across the country. But when the job is complete, it definitely serves a purpose and it looks a lot better. So those people who, come into our hospital taking photographs of these works, it's good that you're concerned, but be assured that the team is working to address these and other issues across our 6-year-old plant. And in about 42 months' time, we'll have a new facility on the other side of the road, the Enmore project. You heard our Minister of Health and Wellness unveiling and announcing it, and more work for Paula. More work for the engineering team, and even more work for you, Corey, as we will have another oncology center, another
Oncology.
conversation for another time. All right, so we have reached that point where we are set up in the bunker.
So not so fast, Shane,
Not so
because
fast. All right, cool.
we physically got the machine into the bunker. But as Corey likes to say, our nice lady was undressed. And we then had to dress her up. So we had to install all of the paneling, all of the side pieces, We had to install the covers. We had to install the couch. There were many bits and pieces that we had to install, and that then took us from Tuesday till Thursday to install all of those bits and pieces to make sure that she was fully dressed and
So
ready.
it is a she.
Well, we've called it a she. I may be biased, but Corey called it a she also. So,
That's funny.
but yeah, so she's fully dressed,
Okay.
and she is now ready to be handed over to the next set of teams for them to do their testing. And the engineers will be here, and they are on site on island, and from tomorrow they will start. While physically things have been put in place and so on, the engineer will now come and do his final checks to make sure that everything has been installed correctly, and that he's happy with all of the items that have been installed. He will check the computers, make sure he powers those on, check all the power requirements, check the chiller, check to make sure that the temperatures are correct, check the temperature in the room, the humidity in the room. Temperature and the humidity in the room have to be at certain set parameters, and once he's happy with that, then and only then will he power on the unit.
Lovely. 4341007 or 4341070 are the numbers to call, and you can also send us a WhatsApp if you are a bit shy and just want to share your thoughts or ask a question. 4341007 is that number that you can send a WhatsApp to us. So Corey, now we're at this stage where the LINAC, she's all dressed up, the Linear Accelerator. A number of things still have to happen. There are a number of processes to go through on your side as the physicist before we even speak about the medical teams coming in and doing anything in terms of treatment. Take us through the next, if you can, just an overview of the next few weeks in preparation for the start date of the LINAC.
Sure. So, what I can say straight off the bat is that the next few weeks will be very busy for the team, including myself. After the engineers do their installations, one of the primary things that physicists do is check behind calibrations. Because you turn on the system and the power comes on, does it mean that we can use that system for treating patients? So your physicist is responsible for checking every component of the system to ensure that it is fit for clinical use. And these components on this system, they're sensitive components, and they are responsible for sub-millimeter accuracies, right? So we do have standardized protocols that we follow for doing these checks. We are being joined by some medical physicists from Washington University who I would have worked with last year to commission a similar Halcyon system at Washington University. So I'm expecting them in the country on November the 4th, for example, and we were going to commence those commissioning verification activities to ensure that the system is fit for clinical use. That should take us probably just north of a week or so. Because if you can imagine, if you're doing a week of comprehensive assessments on the system, this system then has to be a system that requires a lot of QA oversight, right? Quality assurance oversight. And it's important that we also continue, so you're not just checking this system up front to see if it is fit for clinical use, but you're also establishing baselines to ensure that we have something to reference to as we move forward and use the system. So as we work with the system, we're going to continue our quality assurance check-in to ensure that the system components are working in accordance with the manufacturer's tolerances, and also as relate to the international standards as well.
Paula, how do you come in terms of making sure that everything is right and straight as we lead up to the official launch date?
So we, as was mentioned previously, there was a lot of training because of the steep learning curve that was needed to move from the old technology to new technology. And as part of that training, we would have trained 2 of our biomedical technicians to be able to respond and be their first responders should there be anything happening adversely or something that is out of the normal, that they may come and check and advise on before we proceed to use the system any further, or if we started to use the system, that they would be able to diagnose, troubleshoot and diagnose. So the team, when the variant engineer is here and he is going through his powering up and his testing and so on, they will be on site and on hand to follow and to make sure that they solidify some of that training that they had. Some of it was a couple months ago and some sooner. So some of it may not be as fresh for some as for others. But they will be there on hand to be able to see the system in its raw state so that they know, and in fact they've been involved from the beginning, building it right up, so they know each and every component, and so they will be very familiar with how the system is put together, and they will work alongside with the external teams so that they will have a good sense of all that is happening on the system. They will also be able to see all of the testing that is going to be done and verify all of the results. A big part of testing is not just testing but verification and documentation, because we will also want to know this is where we started, and if there are any slight modifications when they come back and test, they will see, but this is what values we started with and we're getting some variance and it is starting to go in the wrong direction. So we want to be able to document and keep very good records of all that is happening so that they will be able to monitor the system. There are certain tests that the staff of themselves that are operating the machine that they will have to do on a daily basis, and there's some other tests that the biomed team will do, and then there are some annual checks that we will have to bring the variant team back in for them to do. The system will be under warranty for the first year or so, and therefore anything that happens during that time they will be responsible for. But obviously we will be keeping very close eyes and monitoring on a regular and routine basis. For equipment like this, similar to some of the other systems in our radiology department, the team would normally do a daily walkthrough just to check and see. You might hear a noise that you're not accustomed to hearing, see something that seems a little out of place.
I don't want you putting things in the air, for sure. But I mean, there are realities.
But these are the checks that they will make to make sure that we are always, where we need to be.
And I mean, your team has the experience in dealing with similar and other pieces of equipment. This is a first for us here in Barbados as far as the Linear Accelerator is concerned. Really putting us to chart a course for really offering that treatment not only here in Barbados for Barbadians, but right across the region as well. But your team normally does. This is part of a maintenance schedule
that they are accustomed
that
to.
this LINAC will fall into.
That they will fall into, because each manufacturer does specify what their recommended maintenance schedule is. What we do sometimes is we may go above and beyond that. If we recognize our usage is maybe heavier than normal, we may go above and beyond, but never less than what the manufacturer's recommended schedule is.
We have a number of international partners to thank as well. I think Global Medica being one of them. You mentioned Varian, which is the name that you see splashed across the box of the equipment. Talk a bit about some of these international partnerships that we've now formed and created to really help us drive forward with producing, having that linear accelerator and getting it ready for clinical use.
So one of the key partnerships that I would say stands out is the partnership with the International Atomic Energy Agency.
IAEA.
Yes, the IAEA. They are the watchdogs for the peaceful uses of ionizing radiation, which is the type of radiation that we use in medicine at the hospital. And that type of radiation is used for imaging in radiology, and also for the treatment of cancer in radiation therapy. And I think collaborating with them, accelerate us to this point where we are now in a position to deliver high quality radiation therapy. And also, we're going to have them on board over the next couple of weeks to audit that transition, right? Which is to come in to do a systematic evaluation of our processes and our systems.
Okay, before you talk about some of those other partners, which we really want to thank and salute, let's go to the phone lines quickly. We have another caller. Good morning. Welcome to the Pulse Radio Show. How can we help as we speak about the Linear Accelerator? Yes, good morning.
Yes, I am so happy to hear my hospital. I spent 17 years in there until I get a promotion in 19 administrator in other places.
Okay.
And I passed there day before, and tears came to my eyes. I could not believe that was the hospital I worked. I mean, there's so many changes to it. And I argue with people overseas, especially in the UK, nothing can beat QEH. And sometimes I get hurt when I hear people redown it on the air. I mean, it's really, really well. Everything in there, it puts me in mind like some of the private hospitals in the UK. And I would like at least if y'all could have some system that where you can put up some, how could you put it? That's patients, not patients, but actually visitors would not come into that place and do some damages like what before, especially when they can't get to see a doctor. You see a lot of things sometimes used to go on, and I would like, because I have cameras here to maintain it. That's a lot of money that was spent on that institution. You could see it, and I would like to make sure that the taxpayers' money would not be, because you're hurting people, the patients, when you don't have equipment not working well.
Yeah, so that's why Paula is here. She works on maintaining the equipment and also setting up procurement for new equipment. If you did it...
Oh, she's the female engineer.
She is the lead engineer. She
okay,
is,
because years ago it was
the
all male,
department.
never a female.
So it just goes to show you the development that the Queen Elizabeth Hospital has had with Paula Agbowu, Director of Engineering, leading the team of engineers there.
That's wonderful.
And she is also responsible, as I said just now, for maintaining the equipment. What I can tell you about the security side of things, there are cameras stationed across the hospital. Of course, we won't tell you where they are, but and Paula can speak more to this. But rest assured that the security team is watching everything that happens at the hospital, and that's how they're able to respond to some of the things that can happen from time to time. You know, we're living in a world that so much happens, so many different things happen now than they did
I would
in the
say
past.
ignorance. Because you always had during the time before it became accident emergency, it was called casualty. And it was always, when persons come to that institution, they always believe that the thing, even when you go to a private doctor and you get an appointment for 10 o'clock, sometimes 12, you haven't seen him. And they had this attitude of want to break down whatever the case may be. And I know that for what I've seen now, really millions of dollars. I would even go as far as nearly $1 billion to put that hospital, and I always brag, it's the best, not only in the Caribbean, outside. And we need to maintain it, because at least if anything goes wrong, it should be after 5 years. Nothing before. I've never met Corey. I believe he might have been a medical student at the time when I was about to leave there. And you're doing a very good job. Sometimes I tell myself, Corey, you've got to be the owner of that hospital, the way how he speak and try to make sure that everything is going fine. And I'm begging Barbadians, please care that institution and call it yours. If you have your own home, you would try your best to make sure that your children don't damage it or your neighbors. And that's what it will like. We don't want to hold you all back, but I plan sometime I would come over there, because I still remember all the admin staff, and give them a few little things by traveling and see how outside is done with hospitals and what we have, if we can maintain that standard. Thanks so much for listening to me.
Yes, we are happy that you can share these comments with us, and please feel free to come. When you come to the administration department and speak to one of our team there, and we can definitely hear and listen to your advice and some of your concerns that you may want to share with us, and they could help us to chart a better course going forward to deal with a number of the issues that can pop up from time to time. You wanted to add to her comments, Paula?
I was just going to say thanks to the caller for noticing that the team at QEH has been working hard to try to make a lot of changes. I know sometimes incrementally we don't see it because we're there day after day, but sometimes that eye that has left and come back may see it a lot more. We are trying our best to make sure that we do maintain the facility and maintain the equipment. And as we said, we do have schedules that we are following. And as Shane said, I mentioned, there are CCTV cameras around the hospital. Obviously, we can't say where they are, but we are planning to add some more to those as we progress along. In this day and age, with the types of incidences that we have actually caught a number of persons on our CCTV to know what has happened in a particular area, and so we want to discourage those that may be tempted to damage or cause harm or anything like that. We want to discourage people from doing that and to let them know that the cameras are watching.
Yeah, and also about people may come to accident and emergency department and get frustrated and may want to cause a bit of a ruckus. We understand the anxiety that you and your family may feel, and our teams will try to help talk you through as best as you can so that they receive the best possible care. As I always say, when we send out notices sometimes, and we had to send out one last week, speaking about how busy the department was in responding to those medical emergencies and just medical care in general, and the delays that may follow for those people who are not as urgent as some of the others. We just always ask people if they can be as patient as possible. Dr. Cruikshank, who manages the department, who leads the department, and her team will get to you. And it's all about, if we tell you, your case is not as urgent, please, just as much as you can, just bear with us and we will get to you. Things have improved in the accident and emergency department, but that does not mean that you need to go there if it is not an emergency. And we always give you the facility if you're unsure if you need to come to the department or not to call, which is our patient advice and liaison service. That number is 536-4800, 536-4800. So if you're thinking and you're unsure about if you should come to the A&E AED or not, you call that number and that medical person on the line will help to guide you. And if it is that you need to come immediately, they can even send an ambulance your way so that you can get the necessary care that you need. But it's all a team effort, and what you're hearing here on the Pulse Radio Show today as we talk about a bit more about the Linear Accelerator and the journey into the bunker at the hospital is about that team effort, which we continue to do to offer the best medical care that we can offer to you. And it's a work in progress. It is not perfect. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital is by no means a perfect institution, but the teams are working to just make sure that we can continue on this path of improvement to offer better care to you, especially over the next 3 years under the 2025 to 2028 strategy led by our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Neil Clark. And you were speaking about some of the teams that are working and that have been working, Corey, to help with this consistent, continuous improvement.
Sure. So the Washington University physicists, they would have played an essential role in getting us to where we're at today, and also they're going to play that continuous role as well, where they're going to help us commission the system, but also lend remote support where necessary. Even though we are treating cancer with advanced technology, some of the cases can be very complex, and we need that type of oversight from very experienced personnel. On that same token or wavelength, we can mention Pratt. They're sending down some support for 6 months. So in that team would be a medical physicist, a radiation therapist, and also a dosimetrist. And these are critical players, who would help us get to where we need to be in terms of delivering high quality care for our patients. We do have to improve the quality management system. We have to write our protocols, make sure we have our standard operation procedures, make sure that we have persons on the ground with the expertise to handle, these complex cases, because it's always good to have this support on the ground, in collaboration with, remote support as well. So I think the project was a well-planned project. We did have some challenges with the execution of it because of unforeseen things, and these things happen with any project.
2 millimeters.
Yes, 2 millimeter tolerances, etc., to work with for the floor, etc. But I think the day has come where we are closer to the end, in terms of treating the first cohort of patients than we were a couple months ago, and it's something that I am excited about, something that I am happy about, because cancer affects everyone, right? Someone has a family, a friend, a co-worker, an associate that have passed away from cancer, and I think the implementation and the introduction of this technology to the hospital will really help us improve, that mortality, morbidity that exists.
Both of my grandparents passed away from cancer, so it is a personal thing for most people. Most people
personal
have
for all of us.
relatives
I think
who
it's
passed
personal
away from
for all
cancer.
of us.
So we're here at a point where, through the government and through the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we've been granted the funding to purchase this piece of equipment. What's the cost?
The overall project cost was about $10 million. The equipment itself is about 2.5 million US dollars. Yeah.
The equipment, as in the Linear Accelerator itself,
Yeah.
2.5 million US dollars.
Correct.
And but the entire project scope is roughly 10 million.
Yes.
10 million Barbados dollars.
Yes.
So not a small amount of money.
Not a small amount.
For one piece of equipment to make sure that we can do what we need to do as far as our oncological patients are concerned. And I'm telling you, we have some other money, the CAPEX, Capital Expenditure Program, where we have been allotted 65 million US dollars.
No, the
Two
total
parts of 65 million Beijing.
Beijing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have some money there to spend on some other pieces of equipment. You're responsible for the CAPEX list, Paula.
I don't know if I'm responsible for the CAPEX list. I think the entire team is responsible for the CAPEX list, because the CAPEX, the capital expenditure, is really broken up by department, and each department has some equipment or some need, which has to be capitalized based on the amount of money
I'll
that
put it
is.
another way then. You are responsible for maintaining the equipment
when it comes.
When it comes after
So
it's
that would
purchased for the CAPEX list.
add to the already large list of equipment that we have. But yes, when the equipment comes, we'll be responsible for the maintenance.
So how I started this program by saying a lot is happening at our Queen Elizabeth Hospital. All of it is a part of those consistent improvements listed under what is the 2025 to 2028 strategy, and we'll be continuing to share these elements under the strategy as they unfold to keep you informed about what is happening. But we're really pushing hard, both Paula, our Director of Engineering, and Corey, our medical physicist. We're really pushing hard to get to that launch date for the Linear Accelerator, where we can say we will treat that first patient. But what has been emphasized today is that there's still a number of steps to be taken to make sure it is perfectly ready for clinical use. So as we wrap up today's program, I just want to give both of you, I'll start with you, Corey, that final opportunity to just quickly lay out a quick overview of what happens next. We spoke about it in detail here today, but that quick overview for that listener who would have joined a little later in the program.
Right, so quick status update. The system is in position. We have the engineers on the ground. One other engineer is joining from the variant team. He will be starting work tomorrow. They're going to do a sequence of checks on the power side, on the HVAC side, and on the plumbing side, just to ensure that the system, the main system, can be turned on safely. And once that has been done, they're going to do a series of calibrations on the system. Subsequent to that, the physicist will take over. I would do an independent check of those calibrations, something that we call commissioning, and this is to certify that the system can be used to treat cancer patients. there are a number of training that should take place between when the system is fit for clinical use and when we're about to deliver our first treatment. Our radiation therapists will be subjected to that training, and the medical physicists will be working closely with them, as well as the international partners who will be joining us to deliver that applications training. I think subsequent to that, we are going to be joined by the incoming staff support, and it will be all systems go once everything go according to the project schedule. So our next step is basically to continue to collaborate and coordinate closely with these individuals. We're going to continue our weekly steering committee meetings just to ensure that we have everything in place. And once everyone is comfortable and the system is fit to be used clinically, then the public would hear about the first treatment.
About that first treatment. Final thoughts from you, Paula, as we get a bit closer to using the Linear Accelerator and to your, of course, oversight and maintenance of this and other pieces of equipment across our hospital?
So, Shane, we are just very glad to be at this point. So far, from moving date to now, things have gone according to plan. We know what steps we need to take. All of us are just working to follow those steps as closely as possible. We're working collaboratively to ensure that there are no changes to that. What we are doing is that we are checking to make sure that no changes have to be made. The team is on standby, that just in case anything happens, that we are there to put our brains together and to make sure that we can come up with a solution very quickly. And our job is really just to stay on course. Stay on course, and as long as we stay on course, as we have been doing for the last week, we should be there within another couple of weeks.
Well, thank you, the both of you, Paula Agbowu, our Director of Engineering, and our Medical Physicist Lead, Corey Drakes, doing an awesome job to make sure that we can offer that level of oncological care through the Linear Accelerator. And of course, we'll continue to share the updates as they come right here on the Pulse Radio Show, so you can listen to those on Monday. We had a caller asking about the geriatric hospital and when that will open. That is under the Ministry of Health and Wellness. I'm pretty sure that MOHW and their officials will soon be able to say what will happen in terms of the opening of the facility, but I can tell you it's a beautiful facility right there just above the Waterford University. A beautiful facility that anyone passing on the highway in that area can see. What do you call it there again?
Waterford Bottom.
No, that's Waterford Bottom is the other side. The top side is
Hoddesville Turning.
Hoddesville Turning.
Yeah, Hoddesville
Well,
Turning.
it's kind of spanning between the two.
Yeah, beautiful area for our geriatric hospital. One of the other developments under the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Of course, as we get the information, we will share it right here with you on the Pulse Radio Show. And until next time, another week where we have great information for you. We will be wrapping up things on the Pulse Radio Show in the last week of November. So we'll be off in December, and then we will start back in the new year. But before that, we should be able to tell you that we've treated that first patient.
Definitely.
On the Linear Accelerator. Again, thank you, Paula. Thank you, Corey. And thank you, listeners, for joining us on another edition. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Pulse Radio Show. Remember, you can catch all of this action right here on Q100.7 at night. They air the program again. But also, you can join our podcast and go to our website at www.qehconnect.com. You can find all of the episodes from all 4 seasons right there. All of the information you need on your Queen Elizabeth Hospital. Goodbye for now. See you next time.
Thank you so very much, Shane. The QEH Pulse Radio Show brought to you with the kind compliments of Med-Safe Medical Supplies Ltd.
all your medical supply needs, visit Med-Safe Medical Supplies Ltd. We offer a wide range of products including wheelchairs, walkers, canes, crutches, blood pressure machines, stethoscopes, and so much more. Conveniently located on Gemmetts Lane, just a 2-minute walk from the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And for your convenience, we deliver free to the QEH. Open Monday to Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Call us at 624-7542. Med-Safe Medical Supplies Ltd. Your trusted source for medical essentials.